Organization and the senior representative of Merkaz in the national institutions. It's complicated in Israel, as we know, in the last 415 days, and we are here to analyze together the results of the elections in the U.S. and the implications on the relationship between Israel and the United States of America. We are hosting tonight for this special briefing for leaders and captains from different Masorti conservative congregations in the US and in Canada, Tal Schneider, a journalist that I will introduce in a second. If you have any questions during this session, please write them on the chat, and we will, in an order, we'll find a way to at least include some of them. I can promise that we'll do the best, but I'm not sure that we'll be able to address them all. So, Tal Schneider, Erev Tov.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, and it's good to be here.
Sure. So Tal is a political journalist and a blogger. She was the creator of the influential political blog Haplog, where she shared her thoughts on Israeli politics and international affairs. Previously, she served as the correspondent of Ma'ariv in Washington, D.C., and prior to that, as a lawyer specialized in defamation law. Tal work has been published in leading Israeli media outlets, including Ma'ariv, Globes, and Haaretz. She is a frequent guest on major Israeli and international news programs, providing expert commentary on Israel and on U.S.-Israel relations. Her work has earned her several awards, including the Tel Aviv Journalists Association Award for Excellence in Digital Journalism. And thank you for being with us. You know, I was privileged to be part of your small, I think, WhatsApp group, or maybe large, I'm not sure, WhatsApp group, following your the way that you covered the elections in the U.S. You were in rallies and meetings all over the U.S. in Harris and Trump campaigns, and I wanted to ask you something from the Israeli angle, Tal. How important, how influential was the Israeli politics on the campaigns in the US this time?
So again, thank you for having me. Let me just add that I'm working at the Times of Israel. I'm their political and diplomatic correspondent. I'm sure it's an outlet that you all know, or if you don't, then it's time to get acquaintance with. We are covering Israel's news in English from Israel. So this is what I do now these days. And indeed, I was planning to be more in the US during this year of campaigning, but because of the war, I actually canceled some of my plans. But I ended up going to the election week, and I spent some time in Pennsylvania. Other than that, I was following very, very close whatever is going on. I think the war was an important component, even though we all know that the American public thinks first of economy and on many other issues before they get to world affairs, even where the campaigners and the people that are engaged in the campaign do take a lot of notice about what the public says about the war in Gaza, the war in Ukraine. Even when they are talking about it and being interviewed about it all the time, the public doesn't vote on that specifically. It's probably item number 9 or 10 down the list. And it makes sense to me that the American will be more busy with economy and immigration and health issues and on. Having said that, it definitely was it was generating a lot of headlines, and it was a specific component of localized in a way which was weird to me as an Israeli, because it's a world affairs issue, but then it was localized in Missouri, and in New York for the Bauman campaign, and then in Michigan, of course, at the end. So it was localized in primaries, surprisingly, and then as an item for how to get people to vote, to get the people out to vote in Michigan and other locations, between the Jewish and the Muslim communities. And let me just add one more note before Izar, before we proceed. I don't know if you all know, but today we mark in Israel a year exactly since the hostages, around 110 hostages started to come out of Gaza. And obviously, it's a dire date because we have 101 hostages still in. And I do know that when President Herzog called Miami actually or Mar-a-Lago to congratulate elected President Trump a day or two after the elections. He was talking to him about the hostages, and he was somewhat surprised to understand that Trump thinks that most of the hostages are dead by now. And I was also in Philly meeting with Jewish leaders, back at the first week of November, and also they thought that most of the hostages are dead. And according to what we know, this is not the case. At least half of them are alive, or maybe, a little bit less than half, but around, we hope that around 50 of them. And I think as when you proceed to ask about the implication of the war and the relationship with the current White House and the next White House, I think this issue is of an urgent need and also of a major importance to the Israeli people. So it lays, across all other issues because, we have to solve that first before we can proceed to anything. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. One of the things that was very noticed that the Israeli public, its vast majority, was supportive of Trump, and the Jewish community in the U.S., its vast majority, supported Harris. There are many reasons or many ways that shows differences between these two communities. Did you feel that this time it was different than before?
Um, well, I think in Israel, even in the past, there was a big support for Republicans candidate wherever they are. Even if you go back to Reagan days and Obama days, and probably even around Clinton days. So there is a constant support here for the more conservative side. I don't know if you can call Trump really a conservative person, but there is a big gap, I suppose, between the Israeli community and the Jewish community of the United States, and also between obviously between the Jewish community of the United States and the results. It's a gap that we should be aware to, and we can talk about it, but it did not surprise me if that is the question with respect to Trump. I think Trump was popular here during his time in office because of the Jerusalem move of the embassy and the Abraham Accords. But I also think that the Israeli people, they realize how much gratitude and thanks they have to grant the outgoing president Biden, of course, which came here 10 days after the war began, when we were, in such a desperate mood and atmosphere. And he came here, with the danger, and it was really dangerous here at that time. And he was here. He gave uplifting speech. He did many things for this country during this year of 14 months, with respect to, help on ammunition and more, strategic help, and even geopolitical help. So sometimes don't get distracted by the discourse here. There is a great admiration to him personally and to his administration, to what they did. And with all of the disagreements and, the fact that people here are more, they are more leaning to the conservative, to the Republicans. Even with that, they do know how much gratitude and praise need to go to the Biden administration.
Definitely. I do remember that speech that Biden gave when he was here, and it was so moving and so comforting. I remember that I felt it's the first comforting speech that we hear from any leader, including ours. So, yeah, it was important. What should we expect, or what can we expect from the time until from President Biden, from now until President-elect Trump is getting into office? There are like 2 months now.
True. There's so many things on the table. First, it seems to be that the Lebanese Israeli-Lebanese agreement is right on the table. And from what we hear, the Trump future administration, or you can call it the transfer, or how do you call it? Um, I forgot the word for that. The interim period administration. From what we know, they are not objecting for Amos Hochstein and Biden to move right away with an agreement. So there were some, conversation here whether Netanyahu will wait for Trump in order to give him some sort of a credit, which I hope it's not going to happen. I mean, we don't know that for a fact right now because the agreement, every day we get a headline saying the agreement is right around the corner, it's coming, and so on. So I hope they will actually proceed with that, and they will probably give the credit to both leaders. But Amos Hochstein spent a year going back and forth between Israel and Lebanon, and let's hope that something evolved before the inauguration of Trump, because we don't want to wait and have more bloodshed during those 2 months. We see every day, casualties in Lebanon also, but here it's horrific for us. I mean, today was one of the worst days since the beginning of the war, with huge amount of rockets all over the country. Actually, even where we live, right now where I'm talking to you, we ran to the shelter a couple of times today. And the northern part of Israel is just devastated from that. They ran today
Yep.
dozens of times. So it was really a difficult day. So let's hope it's not, continuing until January 20th. With respect to Gaza, things are not as bright. I mean, it's not bright on the Lebanese side, but things are not as good as they could have been. Israel is really dragging its feet, and the negotiation, we don't see negotiation at the moment at all. And I understand that while Netanyahu was in the White House during July, then he went to Mar-a-Lago to meet with Trump during the campaign back in July. This is almost 6 months ago. Trump told him at that time, when I get elected on November 5th, you make sure you get everything done in Gaza by the time I'm inaugurated. So but we didn't hear anything specific from Trump since he was elected. He did not repeat this campaign type of talk saying, you have to finish it off, do what you need to get out and so on. And it's hard for me to tell you whether, I mean, we keep hearing that Netanyahu is dragging his foot on purpose, doesn't want to end the war in Gaza at all, and he wants to conduct some sort of a military presence. I don't know what Trump's plans are. We did hear during the campaign that he said, enough with the wars, you need to pull out. But then he also said, you got to finish off the Hamas. It was said before Israel killed Yahya Sinwar. Now that Yahya Sinwar is no longer with us, many people in Israel do believe that the Hamas is already finished off, and there is no military work to do over there. Just need to get the hostages out. But
Mhm.
as long as they drag their feet, we don't know what's going to happen with the hostages because we're losing them day by day. So
Please
uh,
allow me a personal question because you said it once on stage, so I'm allowing myself to ask you. Your son is serving, right? He's still in Gaza or in the north?
yeah, he's in Lebanon right now as we speak. He's in the paratroopers in Battalion 202, Tzanchanim, if you know the term Tzanchanim, it's paratroopers. He's an officer he's finished his mandatory service. He's already in what you call It's not a military career, but when you go to be an officer, you stay 2 years further than the mandatory service. But he's supposed to be done with that on February, and we got our fingers crossed that he will be out of Lebanon. I hope any day. I mean, he entered like a week ago, and they said it's going to be 14 days. I don't know. I mean, we don't really know. So let's hope for them to be out in the next week or so and be done with that mission.
שיהיה בריא.
Thank you. Thank you.
What can we learn, in your eyes, from the nominations that we get to hear about almost every day now, regarding United States and Israel relations, and regarding the new ambassador that would be coming here to serve in Israel?
Yep. So there was huge enthusiasm here about Mike Huckabee, because he is, I don't know if you all know that, but he is an official tour guide recognized by the state of Israel as tour guide in Israel. I've seen him here many, many times. He's been traveling back and forth, leading groups to travel the country. And he was supposed to have a group of travelers coming in March. I suppose this group will not come after all. But on many flights that I flew back and forth during the years, I actually met him. I think on my flight, I lived many years in the United States, and on the flight that we moved back to Israel back in 2009, I actually met him on the airplane. So it's like he's like the frequent traveler, I suppose. So he knows the country very well, and he's connected very much to, I think, settlers, and also people in the right wing, the Likud. He was interviewed right after he was announced, and on Israel's radio, he said that even with his own agenda, he is serving as on the president agenda, not his own agenda. So we definitely know that his own agenda includes annexing West Bank and so on, but basically, I don't think it's going to happen or anything like that, because we do have the deal of the century, or the peace plan that was produced by Trump and Kushner, and it was embraced by Netanyahu in the White House. They stood together at the podium. I was there actually in this event when Netanyahu was just saying yes to the plan next to President Trump at the time, January 2020, I believe, probably like 10 months before the US election at the time, at the 2020 election. The plan was not wholly welcomed here. People from the right wing said immediately this is a no-go because there is a Palestinian state at the end of the road there. We don't want to have that. So, I mean, but Netanyahu embraced it, standing next to Trump. So, and then you should ask yourself, is this plan relevant because of the war? So we did not hear from Trump specifically on that front, but when Huckabee says that I am going along with the president's agenda, you may ask, you probably should ask, is the president agenda is going
when he answered this way, you were surprised?
No, I was not surprised.
I was surprised because I knew his thoughts about annexation and stuff, and he was like taking a step back. He said whatever the president decides.
Yeah, because last time when this plan was out, some people in Israel celebrated annexing, and then Trump put brakes on that and told them, I mean, like the former ambassador to Israel, Friedman, was ready to open a champagne, I suppose, with some of the annexing supporters or annexing, leaders, annexing people who wants to annex the West Bank. But then some of the media came up and said, excuse me, this is not right. We hear from the White House, from people high up, higher than the ambassador, that it's not going to happen. And it did not happen because when you look at the plan has two sides. The plan recognizes the Palestinian rights, and on after the election day of 2024, Trump was on the phone not just with Netanyahu but also with the leader of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen. So he talked to him. And we do know that Trump has in his own family right now, not just the Jewish son-in-law, but also the Christian Lebanese son-in-law from the Bulus family. So I don't think things are going to be just clean slate, do what you want, I'm fine with everything. It's not going to be like that. And we have this plan. We have the massacre that took place on October 7th. So security needs are different these days. And we definitely have the Saudi, the Saudi issues on, it's not on the sideline. It's a main issue for the Israelis. And it should be a main issue in the near future. And we do know of the very good connection between the next White House and the Saudis. So, I mean, Kushner, Trump themselves, they want to package it all together. And you can't really move forward without any type of a Palestinian move. It's just impossible. It's not going to happen. You need, I mean, you want the Egyptian on board, and we actually, the Egyptians have a permanent presence here in Israel. It shouldn't come as a surprise to you. The Egyptian diplomats in Israel, they keep in really good contacts with Israel's leadership and also with Israel media and other aspects of the Israeli society, energy deals and some security deals, and they are highly engaged, even when you don't hear them, day and night talking to the media. And they will not move a needle without any step of the Palestinian side. And so we don't talk, I can talk about myself. We don't have connection with the Saudis diplomats or anything like that. But we do have some connection with the Egyptians diplomats, and it's nothing is going to take place unless there is a change on the Palestinian issue. And with Israel's current leadership, it's going to be almost impossible.
So
So,
you
I
think
mean,
that
and it's
it
very
sounds
hard for me to tell you.
it sounds like that it's almost, I'm not sure if it's optimistic or not optimistic. It depends on your political view, but it sounds like the settler movement is about to be disappointed from Trump's actions in the beginning of his term.
I, I don't know if they're going to be disappointed, because I think for them politically and on the agenda front, they're never disappointed, because they look at it from more of an zoom out outlook, and they think that they can achieve things with little steps. So, but they're definitely, if you're talking about the settlers' leadership, they will do whatever they can to make sure there is not a Palestinian state at the end of the road.
Mm.
Um, but having said that, they are always optimistic about what they can achieve. So it's kind of complicated at the moment, but we need to hear from the next White House. What do they want to do? We know that Trump appointed a personal friend and acquaintance to be Middle East negotiator. This is someone who has an experience on business side, doesn't have a diplomatic skills experience. So it means that Trump is trying to bring into the equation the sort of the business-like approach, and maybe break the norms of diplomacy as we know it. Um, the national security advisor, Mr. Waltz, comes with a huge military experience, special forces experience. So this is good for the Israeli war, who are right now living in fear from rockets, from terrorists, from all this. I mean, we are under attack from 7 fronts: Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, and what did I forget? Someone else also is shooting at us. So I'm talking about countries who are actually shooting rockets at us, 6 or 7. So I mean, you cannot ignore the security needs of this country at this really dark moment. It's constant. So it's good,
And
it's good to have a person like that who has this military experience, as opposed to the defense minister, secretary of defense, which I don't know if this nomination will proceed or not, but it seems like, the defense, the minister of defense, doesn't seem as much as, has so much knowledge, as, for example, as Lloyd Austin have. So we'll have to see if he will get nominated.
speaking about security, about one of the things that in the beginning of his term, Trump would have to decide on is the military aid to Israel that was signed almost 10 years ago by President Obama. What is your prediction regarding the size, regarding conditions?
Wow, it's Trump said during the campaign and even before maybe a year ago, or about, long time ago, not at the end of the campaign, at more of the beginning of the campaign, that he doesn't want to have any more this type of aid. He wants to have, the structure needs to be with loans, meaning every country that will get aid will have to repay it back. I don't know. He said those things in the past before the 2016. He said those things about Israel, and he was asked specifically about Israel at the time, 2016, and then he took it back. I mean, he said it the day before the APEC conference, and then at the APEC conference, he took the things back and said, no, 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 I mean it, but for other countries, I don't mean it for Israel, something like that. I mean, I'm trying to remember if I'm correct about that, but this is just from memory. This year around, he said this as a general concept, but he was never asked, will you enforce that on Israel? This is not the case with Israel so far. Israel and the United States have this very special relationship where we get a lot of help, but the procurement and the produced, the facilities, how do you say that? The factories that produce all of this military assistance and help are located in the United States. So when we buy things off this US assistance, we buy them from Alabama, from Connecticut, from Oklahoma, and not from, we don't purchase them here. So that was a huge component in the assistance between the countries. My prediction, it will stay the same. I mean, but again, it's don't put me on the spot because it's very hard to predict Trump. But I do think that he has this understanding, and again, with the stuff that I just mentioned, they do have this understanding on what's going on here with respect to the security needs, and obviously. I mean, Israel is facing Iran right now, but the United States knows that Iran is a threat to the United States as well. We've all seen them even trying to assassinate Trump. This is not me saying, this is the FBI saying during the campaign. So, I mean, they do understand this, threat. It's a worldwide threat. It's not just an Israeli problem.
What do you think would be the impact of Trump being elected on the Jewish community in the U.S.? And the last time that he was in the White House, I could see a big difference between the Hanukkah party that Trump put together to the one that Obama did and the one that Biden did. By the
You
people
did
who
see a
were
difference?
included.
Like what, they were more cheerful or something?
No, in the people who were invited,
Oh.
the leadership of the reform and the conservative movement, whether was invited or maybe they weren't invited, but
Mm.
they weren't there. Probably they were invited and didn't come, and it was a big difference from Obama and Biden. Do you think it would have an impact? Would the Jewish establishment that was more leaning towards Biden would come to term with the fact that this is the president and we need to play it differently this time? Should they? Shouldn't they? What is your take on it?
Well, there was a vote this week at the Senate to stop providing weapons to Israel because of breach of the law, of the American law, with respect to humanitarian aid. And the senators that voted for that were Democrats. But it was interesting to see that the Jewish groups, from within the Jewish groups, one group that joined this effort to stop the aid was J Street, which kind of took me by surprise a bit. I don't know who is going to get invited to the Hanukkah party, but obviously there is a new, not new, but a more of emerging division within the Jewish different groups in the United States. I think this is the first time I think that J Street takes a stand such as that. I'm trying to be here very, very delicate with what I say because it is complicated. I don't think, with what we're facing here, I don't think it is, uh, fair to put Israel on the spot like that. Obviously, some of the efforts that the American administration is doing to change Israel course on the humanitarian assistance to the people in Gaza is justified. And I do agree that Israel is not doing enough on that front. But having said that, the move to block aid to Israel, it's a big step. I don't think the next White House. By the way, Biden was completely against it, and he came out and he was actually working on the phone with the senators, trying to get them to drop that. So maybe he managed to drop the numbers a bit. And so he was not just against that; he was also working the phones to trying to convince. I think that the Republican administrations will probably be all out again against it. So, so the Jewish groups, I suppose JST, they're very sophisticated. They knew it will not pass. And even though they chose to be with Bernie Sanders and not to be with Biden. So, you do see, this specific vote kind of took out what we knew about the division inside the Democratic Party with respect to this country in a more, it's like now it's more on the table, this division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it is it is like a moment that will be remembered when it comes to J Street. Definitely, it was surprising to me that they endorsed it. Regarding the Prime Minister of Israel, before October 7th, we all remember we had October 6th, and the year prior to October 7th was quite hectic in Israel when it comes to the judicial reform that was introduced. And one of the things that prevented this government, our government, from legislating the judicial reform was one of the components was the cold shoulder that they received from the White House. It will not be in the Trump's administration, even vice versa. What does it mean? Do you think that Trump administration would encourage even Netanyahu to legislate the judicial reform?
I think we already see the behavior of our government in the last week or so. You definitely see the effect of the U.S. elections because right now they feel free to just, they started with threatening media outlets just today, trying to close. We have here some sort of
NPR.
public it's NPR. It's a TV and radio station that are, it's not exactly NPR. It's more of a NPR is like only partially financed by the government here. There is like a broadcast. It's more of like a channel
BBC.
for, I think, in BBC in UK. It's like a wholly financed outlet. They have been criticizing the government, and now the government is actually, they put a bill today to close them down. There is a threat going on a Haaretz newspaper, which is very liberal. They just shut off any public finance that they're getting for, ads, public ads. It's not a direct finance, but it's like indirect finance. So, and also you see statements coming from ministers in Israel right now. We feel free to change Israel democratic structure. For example, this is a minister who said that today, quoted. I mean, it was recorded. It cannot be denied. I think these statements and behavior, or for example, the prime minister just yesterday bashed Israel Shin Bet, Shabak, which is like a CIA, and people on the right wing, on the Likud party are starting to talk about dismantling the Shabak. It's like dismantling the CIA, which is crazy. But those things I don't take them lightly. I think if Harris would we have won the election, you wouldn't hear that only because Trump is the winner. They feel free to just go on and just say whatever they want, and they are pretty sure that the White House will not react to that. The conclusion, I think, for the Israeli people is if you wanna fight for your own democracy, and I'm talking about Israel citizens. If you want to fight for the democracy, you shouldn't count on Orban or Trump or Xi or Putin. You need to count on your own people to fight for the democracy values. So no one else is going to do the job for the Israeli people in preserving their democratic values. And it's I don't know to tell you if you will see more demonstrations or not, because right now you the people here are quite worn out. There is sirens all the time and people are running to shelters, and around, I don't know how many, probably like 50,000 people are enlisted to reserve duty. And if you're not enlisted to reserve duty, then your son or daughter is doing mandatory service and they are on dangerous way. And I'm talking about myself, but it's not just me, it's everybody here. So, I mean, so people are, they have less stamina to just go out to the streets, and the situation with the hostages is so depressing. So you don't really see the people, I suppose during wartime, it's easier for a government to deteriorate the democratic values. And you won't see any type of you can't outsource that to DC or to Paris or to London. You just need to do the work yourself. And I don't
It's our task, you're right. So
yep.
from one happy issue to another, Iran. Do you see how do you analyze Trump's potential approach to Iran? How would it be different, and would it bear results in your eyes?
So again, we see Elon Musk going to the UN to meet with the Iranian ambassador to the UN, I think a day or two after the election. That's a huge, huge sign for us to
Didn't he
starting to
say that it
realize.
never happened?
I'm sorry?
He said that it never happened, didn't he? Or he acknowledged the fact that he did meet with him?
I don't think it was denied. It was not
Okay.
denied. As far
Mhm.
as I know, it was not denied. And you like 5 days before the election, you had JD Vance sitting in the interview, I think, with Jack Tapper at CNN saying, we are for negotiation. We want to negotiate with Iran. We don't want to expand the wars. So kind of again mixed messages. My personal opinion, it's not based on something that the people from Trump what team told me. This is just only my speculation. I think Trump wants to counter China, and in order to counter China, it doesn't want to start his administrations with an uptick in gas prices. So it doesn't want the Iranian issue or war to be an issue for the beginning of his term. He wants to have a good economic fight with China. And in order to have a good economic fight with China, he is willing, I think, to be in a relationship with Putin and be maybe in a negotiation with Iran just to take them off the So it's a combination of not expanding the war and going into a fight with China only, or economic fight with China on the tariffs and things like that. And in order to focus on economy issues, you definitely need to have no war in the region and maybe recruit Putin for this kind of get Putin help. I mean, not for us, for Trump. Putin is not playing with us at all. We are, in the worst, very bad position with respect to Russia. I mean, you can judge it from the Ukrainian perspective or from the Syrian. I mean, actually, Putin is selling all of the weapons to Syrian forces and Iranian forces, and this weapon is playing against us. And this is on the table. What the Israeli military found in southern Lebanon is mostly Syrian weapons. So, but I think for Trump is trying to maneuver things in a way so maybe Putin can help him convince the Iranians to stop, you know, with all of their threats and havoc and massacres that they're doing here.
Yeah.
So um so yeah, this is I don't see an Israeli attack on an Iranian even though again Israel's right wing they're pretty sure that January 20 and January 21st they are attacking Iran with the help of the United States. I don't think it's true. I don't think it's happening.
Intelligence. Is there a question that I received in the chat? Is there a concern in Israel about Tulsi Gabbard as a U.S. Director of National Intelligence?
Again, what?
Is there a concern in Israel about Tulsi Gabbard as U.S. Director of National Intelligence?
They don't really know her. She's not a common household name here. She is, it's hard for me to tell you. I don't think people really know much about her. And they probably also do not understand what the head of the DNI is. So, I mean, I'm trying to compare it myself. Is it like Rosh Amman or is it like Sarah Modi'in? It's very hard to understand what her job is. And again, I know in the United States she is considered as like sort of a Putin front person or something like that. And the relationship with Moscow for us is pretty shameful at the moment. So, but again, you have to think from Israel's perspective, we are not world power. So if we have problems with Putin, I mean, not me, I mean, the Israeli leaders, they will not parade them. They will try to ignore them because, Russia is still a world power.
Sure.
Comparing, so Russia can do a lot of things to us, and people here, leaders, they're even if they had disagreement with them, they will not put them on display.
Do you think, Tal, that it's more internal, but it has a global effect as well when it comes to Israel relations with the world? Bibi's trial. Bibi is about to give his testimony. He's called to give his side of the story just in a few weeks. Will it have an effect, you think, on global affairs?
Oh my God. Because the trial is running for like 3 years already, and now the time have come for him to go on the witness stand. This is the beginning of the second part of the trial. The prosecution finalized their show back like 6 months ago, and the defense was given 6 months or 5 months to get ready. The time was extended because of the war. And he is supposed to be on the stand, on the witness stand on December 2nd. He just applied today for the court to postpone it after the court already denied him the right for postponement. So he's trying again and again to postpone it. There is Not a joke, probably more of a concern what will take place in the next 10 days. Because people, they do think that many of his, discretion and judgment of the prime minister is based around his own political interest in the trial. So what do I mean? I mean that people are concerned that he will go out for a big operation or big military event in order to be able to come up to the court and say, listen, I cannot go on the stand. This is the big fear. Just like people are just, again, it's like joking, but it's not really a joke. They say, fasten your seatbelt for the next 10 days because, what's going to happen because in order to avoid this trial. Um, he came up today to the court and asked for another postponement. We don't know. He asked for 15 days of delay, which is not that much, to the December 17th. Basically, in the last couple of days, I started to, as long as we are approaching the due date, the date where he's supposed to go and put his own version, I'm going back to May when former President Trump went on the stand oh no, he didn't go on the stand, but he was in trial in New York. And do you remember how his number peaked right after the conviction? So, I mean, this is a sample for what can happen when he's on the stand. I don't know if he can be very convincing to the judges, but he can also be kind of I don't remember. Why do you pick on me when I have a war going on? Why do you think, talking to the judges, why do you think champagnes and cigars are the issue when we have soldiers in harm's way, and so on and so forth? I mean, he's using those type of arguments all the time.
Yep.
He just spoke this morning or yesterday again. He spoke against the Shabak, against the Israel CIA in very harsh words. They are out to get me. The judicial system is out to get me. The judges are against me. And then he has this another claim. This is not about me. They're trying to topple Israel's right wing. And it can cause some sort of lots of backlash in this country, which is, again, it's so many problems. But
Yeah. We are about to conclude. All the people on the Zoom really care for Israel and about Israel for many years. And
and we thank you
sometimes
for that.
and sometimes people say, what can we do? What should we do? What
Mhm.
what can we do in order to help Israel to get to the right place? What is your advice?
I think you should be very aware of, remember how after September 11th, with the Patriot Act and things that went on, and how you should be really concerned about democratic values during wartime. Because again, it is very, very difficult wartime, but we do need to um, keep our, democratic DNA going on. And I think this is one of the things that you can read about and judge from the outside, where you sit in the United States. You can get updates and be aware to what's going on. If this country is trying to shut down the media outlets, this is going to be hurtful. Or, I mean, the fight for the hostages is such a main issue here. And, anything you think you can do on that front, it's very difficult, I know. But any type of pressure or opinions or engagement or um, even praying. I mean, I don't know, just, do whatever you can, because this issue is, it's ruining the Israel society. The fact that we don't get them out, I think it's the end of it's not just Jewish, it's Jewish, Israeli, and also Muslims, a brotherhood and solidarity. Because as you all know, they also kidnapped Muslims and Bedouin. I think three out of the 101 are Israeli Arabs, and also there are Thai workers who are still abducted. So it's not just Jewish people, but if you can get engaged in that, and we definitely have a problem inside our society of solidarity around the hostages issue. We don't see the support that we would think would be for the people who were taken alive from their houses in the pajamas, and this is heartbreaking. So on that front, and watching and trying to help to preserve Israel's democratic values, I think that's another issue. And yeah, confronting Iran, I suppose. It's not an easy task, but it's definitely.
You gave us 3 tasks, all of them easy. תודה רבה. Thank you so much, Tal. And I'm passing the torch to Rabbi Hillel Skolnick to conclude.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you do for Israel.
Hillel?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Tal, for sharing your wisdom with us and for being part of our program this evening, and for continuing to share your wisdom with us so that we can read what your important words are online. And thank you to Yusar for moderating our conversation this evening and for welcoming us. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. In connection to what Tal said and the idea of the fact that there are so many mixed messages that we here in North America, and particularly for me in the United States, have to try to figure out, it is extra important for us at this moment to make sure that we send a united message and a united idea in our participation in the upcoming World Zionist Congress elections. Tal was just saying at the moment, the idea of protecting the concept of democratic values. Those of us who don't have the bracha, the blessing of living in Israel, still have the opportunity to participate in the World Zionist Congress elections, to protect the ideas that are important to us, to make sure that even in the midst of all the chaos and all of the confusion and all of the mixed messages and all of the problems that we talked about this evening, that we continue to support the fundamental ideas and institutions that are important to us. I learned from Yuzhar a long time ago that if you want to think about one person who inserted the idea of politics into the idea of Zionism, it was Herzl, and the institution of the concept of a World Zionist Congress that had the idea of elections and people working together to form groups that agreed on certain things and then worked together for good. We have the opportunity to do that with our support of Merkaz, but it can only happen if you vote in the World Zionist Congress elections, and it will happen even more successfully if not only you vote, but members of your family, members of your congregation, and friends. So please take the opportunity to support the work that we do by taking this relatively small step and participating in the upcoming World Zionist Congress elections taking place at the beginning of 2025. It matters tremendously. Tal mentioned 3 really important things that we can do. The 4th that we ask of you, and I ask of you as the president of Merkaz USA, is to participate in the World Zionist Congress elections and to ask your friends to vote for Merkaz as well. It is a critical step, and we need your help to support the work that Yizhar and Neely and all of our wonderful friends and companions and co-workers and colleagues are doing in Israel. So please join us in that endeavor. Tal, thank you again so much for being with us this evening. We look forward to continuing this conversation, God willing, with more Besarot Tovot, with more good news. And we pray that the hostages should be returned home. Whether we're doing anything more than praying, I can promise you that we're certainly praying.
תודה רבה.
Thank you
לילה
again.
טוב.
תודה רבה.
Thank you. Bye-bye.